What is up, Bridge Youth family? It is Pastor Blake, and we are here again at another Wednesday night message. Happy April Fool's Day. We want to know, this is the first competition coming at you already. We want to know, what is the funniest April Fool's prank that has ever happened to you or that you have ever pulled off? So text that in to 81010. That number is 81010. And the winner will receive some free Bridge Youth sunglasses in their mailbox next week. And without any further ado, we're going to jump into this. Obviously, we got an empty seat right here. Who is going to fill that seat? I know that's on your mind. It's not Indy. It's not Martin, who is just barking away right now. But it's none other than your summer intern, Mr. Noah Hageman. Come on in here. Papa Squat. Give it up for him. We can't hear if you're clapping or not. We don't know what's going on. But we want to tag team this message for you this Wednesday night. He is going to jump in and be a part of this, and so we're going to get into it. We're still in our Romans series, and we're going to be talking out of Romans 12 today. Before we get into it, my question is this. First, give us a quick update in 10 seconds. What's going on in your life?
I'm getting married in July. College got canceled, and I'm back home. That's basically it.
What an update. What an update that is.
Yeah.
Well, my question, you're getting married in July. My question is this. Maybe it's not been in your relationship with your fiance, but just in life. Have you ever been in an argument where you knew you were wrong? Like, you knew you were wrong, but you just dug in deeper because you didn't want to admit that they were right?
Yeah, for sure. The quickest one I can think of is...
We're getting specific.
Yeah, it was in, like, high school or something, and me and my buddies are always, like, debated on, like, superheroes and, like, Marvel and Star Wars and DC. And, like, in our friend group, I was kind of like the guy who knew all about Star Wars.
Okay.
And then, so me and one of my other buddies were arguing about something I can't even remember, but I was wrong.
Yeah.
But, like, that is my, like, Star Wars was, like, my thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be wrong to him because he's, like, I just didn't want to be wrong to him because I wanted to be right because it's my thing. And so, like, I never relented in my argument. Ended up, like, winning the argument.
Okay.
I never told him I was wrong, so he just believes some false information.
Wow, you persuaded him into being wrong as well.
Yeah, about, like, a not real thing. Well, it might be real, but about, like, something, like, fictional, so.
All right.
You know.
Very interesting, very interesting. Well, we are talking today about what do we fix our minds on. We talked about that last week, and now we're talking about how do we distinguish between God's voice and how do we offer our bodies as living sacrifices unto God. And so our question today is, man, with so many different things speaking to you, maybe they're telling you the wrong thing like Noah did his friend, how do we distinguish between what's right and how do we live for God with so many distractions going on? And so we're looking today in Romans 12, 1-2, and this is what it says. Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is the true and proper worship, right? And this is what it says. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And so we want to be able to talk about that today. How are we able to kind of renew our minds? How are we able to offer our bodies as a living sacrifice? And I think the very beginning of this, right, it says, in view of God's mercy. That's Paul's kind of declare to us. He says, okay, this is why we do it. If we're going to give our bodies as living sacrifices, if we're going to renew our mind, we do it with God's mercy in mind, of what God did for us. Chapters 1-11 really tell the whole story about God's mercy for us, right? He sent his son Jesus for us. Everything that he's done up to this point is because God has so much mercy on us. And we were able to say amen as Christians, right? Because we accept and we receive that mercy. And that should just be reason enough. He shouldn't have to go on anymore. It shouldn't be any twisting of the arm. But because of what God did for us, we're able to say, okay, I want to give my body completely to you. And what Paul means when he says body, he doesn't mean like just your physical body. He means all of you. This was a Greek saying of saying like, okay, your entire being. So that's your mind, your heart, your emotions, and then actually your physical body as well. And so he's not just saying you can do whatever you want in your head, you can do whatever you want with your words, but just as long as your body's to God. No, he's saying give everything to God. We know that while we were still sinners, God was still God, and he still loved us. He still sent his son for us. And I think when we truly reflect on this, when we truly kind of sit back and go, man, out of everything God's done for us, it's easy for us to go, okay, God, I'll follow you. And God's mercy, it allows us to make these mistakes in our life. It's not like we can't mess up or we can't, we don't have to be perfect, right? God, that's why we have God's mercy. He allows us to do those things. But it's like this, Noah, you'll relate because you're a Packers fan, correct?
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you had a friend who was brand new to the NFL, didn't know anything about the National Football League, which we don't even know if there's going to be a season this year. A lot of you don't care. I care. Do you care?
I do.
Yeah, we care. We want football to be here in the fall. If you had a friend that was like, hey, man, I think I'm going to cheer for the Vikings. They didn't know anything about sports. Would you be like, okay?
No, I would definitely tell him, like, yeah, that's the worst team in the NFL.
Right.
You don't want to cheer for the worst team. You should cheer for Packers, who are, in fact, the best team. And since they don't really know anything,
they don't know anything.
Hopefully listen.
Right, because Noah loves his friend. He doesn't want his friend to make this grave mistake of cheering for a team that is terrible.
Yeah.
Right? He wants those people to cheer for the Packers like us and to be winners.
Amen.
This is what it's like. It's like if you went and you robbed a bank. Like, God's going to forgive you for robbing the bank. He is. Like, he's super merciful, but the cops aren't going to forgive you for robbing a bank. And so you can ask for God's mercy and his grace, and he's going to give it to you. But the reason that we want to commit our bodies to God, the reason we want to commit our minds to the renewing so that we can be in God's will, is so that we can live the best life he has for us. It's not so that we can not have this fun or not, break any rules. It's not about the rules. It's about what God has intended for your life. And if we live that life that is in his will, we're going to have that with him, through relationship with him. And so that's what a living sacrifice is. It's not having to really give up your life. He's not saying that. He's not saying, okay, now go get in this altar and sacrifice yourself. But he's saying rather, make yourself this vessel for Jesus to use. Make yourself something that God can use through you.
So the next point I want to touch on is in like the second part of the verse. It says, this is your true and proper worship. Proper worship is basically just how we live in the moment. It's not, worship just doesn't have to be singing. And when I kind of realized that, it was good because I'm quite a terrible singer. And
It's true.
I am
it's true.
honestly reminded of that every time I sing, and like, I enjoy singing. I'm just not, as good as, Adele or something like that.
Who is, though?
My fiance is good at singing. She doesn't like to
No
think
shout
that
outs.
or anything, but
Keep
no free clout. Worship isn't just singing. It's more than that. It's an attitude that we have towards God in all things, in all aspects of life, all areas of life. It's how you treat your parents, how you treat your friends, how you treat your family, how you treat me, how I treat you, how we treat our dogs. We love them. We need to treat them good.
Wow, great cameo.
Even in like video games or something like that. If you're playing Minecraft on a public server, it's how you treat other people living in your world. You're not gonna, just walk around setting fire to everyone's houses or anything like that. That's terrible.
It's kind of funny though.
It's funny,
but it's bad.
It's bad. It's
bad.
It's how you treat everybody, how you live your daily life, according to God. Like your actions, do they reflect the true kind of heart of God, the will of God? And like, are you obeying his words, his teachings? It's not, you don't obey it in a scared fashion of not wanting to get punished or anything like that. It's more than that. It's in a way of acknowledgement and knowing that his will is the best for you and living according to that.
For sure. Yeah, and so I think the next question to ask, right, is Paul's talking about don't be just conformed to what the world has to offer. Don't just fall into these habits of what the world is doing, right? And so my question is, what pattern are you following? in this life right now that we're living, you know, is the pattern that you're going down, is that something that you're just kind of falling in the line, or are you saying, okay, God, I want what you have for me, so I'm going to create my own patterns, or I'm going to look at your word and see what patterns you'd have for me to live? And I'd say right now, man, an easy pattern to fall into is just kind of this fear and anxiety, just what we're going through right now. We can be honest about it. The future is kind of up in the air. We don't know if our trips are actually going to happen in the summer. We don't know how long we're going to have to be quarantined, right? Stuck with family that we might find a little annoying or not. We don't know what it is. Yeah, he's saying the same thing about me. But I think it's easy to slip into that, because it's really what the world is telling us we should feel, and where God doesn't have that for us. You know, we see in Scripture that God hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but of a sound mind, and it's something that we talk about. Man, how much do we actually trust in God, even in the times that suck, right? Because the times that it's really great, it's easy to go, oh God, we trust you, when school's going awesome and our lives are great, but when it's not, when we're stuck in our house for the zillionth day in a row, and we're going, okay, I've played enough video games, which is something I never thought I'd say, and I still haven't, right? I'm still playing video games, but maybe you're hitting a wall at some things, and you're just going, man, I don't know what to do, and you might have this feeling of desperation. And I'm telling you, man, don't fall into that pattern that the world has to offer that just says it's okay to be like this. And something that comes along with just being inside the whole time, have you binged any Netflix?
Yeah.
I've binged some Netflix, right? It's just something that everyone is doing. We're watching TV shows. Maybe you have Hulu. Maybe you got Amazon Prime. I don't know what streaming service you have, but here's something I want to challenge you with, is what you're putting into your mind right now, something that is pointing to God.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easy for us to have a friend say, hey, you should really check out this show. It's awesome. But they don't tell you about, the nudity in the show. They don't tell you about the scenarios in the show. They don't tell you about the things that honestly are not going to be pleasing to God, that are not going to be glorifying Him.
Yeah.
And so when you're running out of things to watch on Netflix, man, I want to encourage you, don't let your mind get warped on those things that could be destructive to what God has for you, right? You ultimately really have to be careful about what you put in your old noggin up here. Because what Paul is saying is, man, you have to be constantly renewing your mind on those things of God. When you focus on renewing your mind, when you focus on saying, okay, God, I want you to be the center of my mind, that's when you're going to see His will for Him. Martin and Indy are just running laps right now.
They're soaking wet, dude.
Hang with us. We're almost done. We're landing the plane right now, dogs and all. It's just a normal day at the Hegeman household.
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, accurate.
And so I want to encourage you in a time, this is my action step for you right now. In a time where everyone, the kind of world is saying, okay, make sure you have enough supplies, make sure that you are really taking care of you, yourself, and I want to encourage you, how could you help the people around you, right? I'm not saying go out and risk everything here, but I want to encourage you, how can you help the people that are around you, whether that's writing a card for them, whether that's donating some food to the food shelter or to the food bank, however that looks, how can you help the people around you?
Yeah. So the thread, right, that's the next. How can you stand out during this time, especially in a time of just fear and anxiety? We often see that people just kind of fall back and kind of just try to just live their own life and try to, do it themselves, just alone. But how, as Christians, how are we acting different? How are we acting different to people? How do our actions speak towards that, towards the perfect will that God has for us? And are we encouraging those around us? Are we seeking those people and giving them hope that we have in Jesus? And how are our lives leading to true and proper worship as well? So what do you guys need to do? What do we need to do as Christians, as Christ followers, to jump into God's pattern for your life? And how do we need to rethink some of the things so we're not like complacent in just staying at home in quarantine? Then
Yeah. Hey, we love you guys. We hope that we can keep communicating and talking to each other during this time of virtual interaction. If you can tell me how many times you saw Martin run across the screen, if you get the exact number, you also get a free pair of Bridgeview sunglasses. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a great Wednesday night. We love you. Be safe. See you later.